everyone. Welcome back to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando, and joined with me today is my great co-host, Keith. Keith, how are you doing? Your Seahawks still rolling?
Still rolling. I'm good. I'm good once the Seahawks keep rolling. Gino balling out again. The whole team, put in a big performance and another good win. We swept the Cardinals, which is always good in division. So, yeah, happy.
Yeah, Cardinals. I think I had the Seahawks winning that one. I think I have the Seahawks maybe favored now to win that division.
I mean, it'd be some feat for the Seahawks if we went and won that division. You're still expecting, I suppose, the Rams to get going at some stage, but it's not looking likely right now. But yeah, Seahawks, they don't fear anyone. They're just playing with a lot of fun, a lot of young guys, and they're right to be top and right to be favorites.
And the Seahawks, they played in Germany, first time in an NFL game in Germany this week.
Yeah, against the Bucks and Brady. So it's going to be interesting. Brady going to, I think, win in 4 different countries, I think, like that. So I'm hoping we put an end to that. They got back to winning ways on Sunday, but let's hope the Seahawks can keep rolling.
And of course, the Patriots doing their own thing, dominating the Colts as usual.
Yep, it was a great game for your boys. I mean, you got the coach fired. What more do you want?
Yeah, exactly. Since we're on that topic, of course, Frank Wright is officially fired, but then they hired longtime Colts center Jeff Saturday, new interim head coach, never coached in college or the NFL. And I just want to mention, I don't know if you saw this stat, Keith, but his high school record in his final year coaching there was 3-7.
Yeah, I mean, very, very strange choice, especially I think you've got Gus Bradley on the coaching staff. You know, he's been a former coach there, head coach, so he could have done the interim, especially when this guy's just coming in to be an interim head coach. So
exactly,
I know he knows the organization and stuff like that, but it's going to be a big ask for a guy with practically no experience. You know what I mean, to go in there and perform and get the team going for the rest of the season. So I don't know, see what happens. Maybe this is what they needed, but they've got problems with the quarterback and their offensive line for a start anyway. So he's gonna have to do something there.
And I mean, I think they should have, if they did plan on hiring him, which obviously they did. I think they would have been better off hiring him on Saturday.
Just cause the name, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
There's been lots of puns. Can Jeff Saturday win on a Sunday? I mean, there's been a lot of that all over Twitter. Yeah, them guys. If you're following someone that says something like that, you should probably not.
Yes, exactly. Since we're on the topic of head coaching firing, so of course, Reach and Rule have both been fired already. Technically, the trend is that last names that begin with R are fired. That means the next person in the hot seat is Ron Rivera.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
No.
The next one's in the hot seat is Josh McDaniels. He's been in the hot seat, I think, all season, but I still don't know how he's kept his job. Yeah, I'm very surprised, but maybe they're content on tanking this year. I don't know. I don't think things are going to get better, to be honest, and see what happens next year. But I'm still surprised he's in the job.
Any question on David Culley for Houston? Or is just the season? Do they realize the season?
No, it's not Lovey there. What's his face?
Is it Lovey? That's Lovey. What I thought at first.
Yeah, Lovey.
Like, maybe. No.
I think they're kind of letting that run this year, given Davis Mills his time. See if he's going to be the guy going forward. I mean, I thought he was pretty good last year. He hasn't shown a whole lot this year. He was better last week, but I'm not too sure he is their quarterback going forward. I think Lovey Smith. I think he'll probably
yeah.
I think he'll probably be okay for now, just because there's not a whole lot expected, and they do have a ton of draft picks coming up.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he'll be on the hot seat next year because obviously they want to keep going with him, and obviously they know that this season is a lost cause. Another 2 possible names is, I know Mike Tomlin's been a very big tenure there in Pittsburgh. Any question on him possibly even losing his job?
I don't think so. He's had too many good seasons. He'll get that. Steelers seems to bounce back. It was always going to be a rocky new quarterback coming in after Ben and stuff like that. I think he'll just need to find his feet. Maybe he's not the guy, and it'll take them longer than they've hoped. But I think they'll be fine. I think Tomlin will be fine. They're not a team going to win the Super Bowl, or probably not going to be near the playoffs, for a while. But I think I'll get it back rolling again.
And what about Kingsbury for the Arizona Cardinals? I mean,
the
head coaching, he's been falling off the cliff.
I mean, some of the play calling and some of the stuff that's going on, you see them fighting on the sideline. And, we had a couple of weeks ago, Kyler fighting with him. And then recently I've seen, Hopkins and Kyler. It doesn't seem like they're all on the same page there. And Cliff's probably, I think, the main reason. I mean, he's the head coach. He's got to take the fall for a lot of these things. A lot of the play calling does not look good. So, yeah, Cliff is probably, on the edge as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do in the coming weeks for all these teams. One of my biggest injury updates is Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen, he should be limited this week with an elbow injury. He's getting MRIs and everything on his UCL, which could be a huge loss for the Bills if it is considered Tommy John surgery that he has to get.
Yeah, that'll be. I mean, that's probably their season gone. I think the big thing is that he had issues before, and I think he missed 4 games. I think this was now prior to the NFL, but I think that's definitely one to watch. One for everybody's fantasy teams that took, Josh Allen at the 101 in their Superflex leagues to see what's going to happen there.
Yes, I mean, it would be a huge loss for him and, of course, the Bills. But if, say, for instance, that Josh Allen is out for the rest of the season, who wins that division? This currently is the only division that is above 500 on all 4 teams this week. Bills 6-2, Jets 6-3, Dolphins 6-3, Patriots right behind 5-4. Is it Patriots? Patriots coming back?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, am I shocked to say the Jets? I don't think so. It'd be obviously the Jets in Miami, but you would go under the radar then, which would probably suit you guys. So I think I'd blow the Bills straight out of the equation there. I don't think Case Keenum. I don't know if he's done it before, but I don't think he's good enough again. There's definitely better quarterbacks in that division.
Hey, Geno's doing it.
Geno's balling, but then again, I mean, Case Keenum was here, there, and everywhere.
That's true.
Geno's kind of got this rebirth, and I think everything is starting to click in Seattle for him. I wouldn't expect Case Keenum to. Well, maybe he'll take them to the playoffs. Maybe get a few more wins again to the playoffs, but I wouldn't think he'd take them. I'd be very surprised if he took them all the way to the Super Bowl and won. What do you do then? Like, I get it. Josh Allen comes back in next year, but you're kind of annoyed that this guy
you trade Keenum.
Yeah, and see what you get from him. But I think it'd be a shootout between the Jets and Miami anyways, and then Hughes will go under the radar.
Of course, Keenum trying to build a case for himself if Allen ends up getting to miss the rest of the season. Of course,
Well played.
Thank you. The last two news and notes around the league is Eagles. Of course, they continue to stay undefeated. This is a weekly trend. They still stay undefeated. They were perfect in the first half. I don't see that going in the second half. I see them losing to 3 games. All 3 are division games, and it's 2 the Giants and 1 the Cowboys. And I was doing some predictions on that division, and there could be a possible 3-way tie with the Cowboys, Giants, as well as the Eagles, depending on how the outcome comes. And it may come with a very final game against those Giants for the Eagles.
That'd be interesting. I mean, I think I called this one their first defeat, so they're playing Washington next.
Yeah. So on a bye week this week, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Eagles had their bye week.
Yeah, they did. They had week 7. People on the bye week this week is the Ravens, Bengals, Patriots, Jets.
Yeah. The Commanders game anyways, that's the one I said that would be their first loss.
Trap game?
Yeah, I think that's the one. I mean, everybody fancies them to win. I didn't think they were that good against the Texans. They got the win. They did what they needed to do, but for a lot of that game, the Texans were in it. So I think the Commanders will upset them and they'll get their first loss.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. And if they do get a loss, it's a loss to the division because that's how it would work. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Just unluckiness. I also want to mention the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings haven't really got too much love, but right now they are 7-1, and the only loss they have is the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings are kind of going under the radar, really. A lot of people are not talking about them a whole lot. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they're good enough to go all the way? I'm not sure about them.
I think they have a good shot of going all the way. Of course, they have a 4-game lead in the division right now. And of course, these next couple games, the remaining games for the season for them is not the greatest, but not the worst. They want to face the Bills this week, which is a huge blow for the Bills if Allen can't play. So I think that Vikings would win that game. Then they face the Cowboys, which is a big game. I think that they slip away with a win there. They face the Patriots. I love the Patriots, but I don't think they win against the Vikings. The Jets face the Vikings. Vikings win that one. They face the Lions. Vikings win that one. They face the Colts. They win that one. Then they face the Giants. I think that could be another interesting one that can go either way. But again, you can give the win again to the Vikings. Then you go to face the Packers and Bears, and those are two division games that they could lose. So realistically, they could go 14-3.
Yeah, I mean, you said about the Jets there. I think the Jets are definitely going to beat teams they shouldn't have, like we just seen, against the Bills. But I do think if Josh Allen is fine to go this week, though, that the Bills will come back guns blazing and get a win. So that'll be another L for the Vikings. But yeah, a lot of the rest, though, I do agree with you. I maybe have them losing, 2 more games ever, maybe. Over you, but I still think they'll be good enough to make playoffs. Whether they're good enough to go all the way, I'm not too sure. I still think there's lots. Kirk Cousins is doing okay without being brilliant, and that defense is better than previous years, but it may fall away when it needs to be. Exactly.
I mean, it could go either way.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what Kirk, my cousin, can do. It's time to go, though, to our bust of the week. And I will start with mine. And my bust of the week is basically the whole entire Packers offense except for Allen Lazard. This team was facing the Lions. They should have put so many points up on the board because the Lions they're such a bad defense. Rodgers, 13.64 points. Jones, 6.5 points. A.J. Dillon, 6.4 points. Tanyan, 5.9 points. Dobbs, who got injured, 2.8 points. And then Sammy Watkins, 1.9 points. This team was absolutely horrendous. And, I mean, the play calling that the Packers had there at the goal line, they tried giving it with Dillon to the end zone. And why give it to Dillon when you're paying when Aaron Jones should be that guy?
Yeah, Jones did go off injured. I think he's going to be okay. That's what the report's saying. He's got a chance to play this week. But, the offense was terrible. What's Rodgers doing, man? Some of them interceptions, he just looked old, and then all of a sudden he's holding his thumb and all that. If he's hurt, he shouldn't be playing because all he's doing is hurting his offense more. Some of them interceptions were bad.
Jordan Love.
It looked like Jordan Love was going to come in at one stage. He was ready to go on the sideline, and then, nothing was said. But that interception that Hutchinson got, I mean, come on.
Wait, which one? Easy. Which interception?
Yeah, exactly. But like from a fantasy standpoint, at this moment in time, there is no reason to have Rodgers rostered, even in one QB leagues. I think he's hurting your team more than he's, bringing in lots of points. So
it's the name. That's the big thing.
That's it. I mean, if he's hurt fine, but he's starting to look old and not very good right now.
No, I completely agree. Anyone but Lazard, I'm staying away with on that offense. Maybe Jones a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know about the running game yet. I mean, it just Dillon.
Dillon hasn't got going all season. I have shares in Dillon in too many leagues.
I do too.
I mean, I don't know if he's even broken 10 points twice this season. It's all low numbers. It's all terrible. He's not even a borderline flex. I mean, some leagues I'm desperate and I'm low on running backs and I have to play him. That's fine. But if you're stacked at running back, you do not need AJ Dillon in your roster or on your starting team.
Exactly. Who is your bust of the week?
It's a guy that I think I brought up, recently enough. It's Tyler Higbee, 1 target, no receptions. From fantasy point of view, just move on. Just go somewhere else. I mean, you can stream the position. It's fine. The Rams offense has been terrible. It's, they can't get it going. Stafford does not look good. I don't know. McVay is, kind of shaking his head on every play. If it doesn't go to Cooper Kupp, it's kind of bust. So, yeah, Higbee, just get rid. There's no need to hold him. Go stream the position. There's other tight ends you can pick up that will at least get you 8 points, I think. So, yeah, he does not need to be rostered.
Yeah, I mean, the tight ends are just so hard. I mean, Higbee's back and forth. And, of course, like you said, if it's not going to Cooper Kupp, it's a bust. I mean,
that's it.
They just know. Everyone knows the game plan. It's going to Cooper Kupp, going to Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. You can't just have that. But not only to mention, Stafford is still technically dealing with that injury that's been lingering since the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he is, but I think we all would have expected a lot better. Like even the run game is not good. They've got Akers back in now, who we all thought was a goner and was going to be traded, but he's back in the offense now. So I don't know. I think McVay is trying to find ways to get it going, and it's not working so far.
No, not at all. Packers offense, Tyler Higbee, and maybe some Rams offense, in that is our bus of the week. Time for some biggest surprises of the week. And I mean, Keith, who is your surprise of the week?
It's Cordero Patterson back off his IR stint. I mean, 13 attempts. He only got 44 yards, but he found the end zone twice. Ended up in a nice fancy day, just over 18 points. And like I said here, he is back with a bang. I mean, he's going to help this offense. I think a lot of people were expecting Falcons not to be as good as they are and challenging for that division, even though it's a very bad division this year. But he is going to help their offense. They've got another big game against the Panthers on Thursday Night Football this week, which was a shootout last time, only a couple of weeks ago. It could be another one again, which is good for fantasy. But Patterson's probably going to have a big say in this, and maybe tilt the game towards the Falcons. So yeah, I wasn't expecting him to come back with such of a bang, as I said, and had a great performance, but he's definitely back and one for everybody's fantasy teams to slot in as an RP2.
Yeah, I mean, Patterson, I wouldn't have started him even if he was coming back the injury. I mean, I expected Tyler Algier, who did also do good. He mainly had more of the rushing yards, and Patterson mainly had more of the goal line work. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for the remaining of the season. If Patterson stays healthy and Algier stays healthy, is that a committee between the two? Does Patterson take more goal line work and Algier takes more of the yardage in the middle of the field?
Yeah, I mean, Patterson probably because he's big and strong around the goal line and in the passing game. Algier maybe the short yards and stuff like that, but it's probably not a bad 2-1-2 punch combo that they got going there now.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot, and I'm not going to mention Algier this week, but in the waivers, but Algier definitely is still in the waiver wire lookout. I think he's still under 70% owned, so if you can get him, might be still a chance to pick him up. But also, my surprise of the week is Cade Otton, and I mean, you think Cade Otton, and you don't have the biggest wow. And that's why, because he surprises you. And I mean, this man has 5+ targets in the last 3 weeks with a score, of course, coming last week. Right now he's the tight end 22, which you don't think is you think it's really bad, but it's really not. You're only about 26 points away from being a top 10 tight end. And the question is does he become the favorite for Brady? I mean, he used to love going to tight ends. And if Cade Otton can be that trustworthy tight end, he could be the next type of Gronkowski where Brady consistently follows him and goes to his way.
Yeah, I think he can be. I mean, they brought Kyle Rudolph in there, and we haven't seen a whole lot of him. So, I think they definitely want to throw Cade Otton out there, and he's definitely a good red zone target for Brady. So, like Gronk always was in the past. So, I mean, it was probably always going to take a while them to get the connection together, and that offense hasn't exactly been great so far. But they got the win, so I'm sure they're going to push on this week, and you'll probably see him being used more in the passing game, all right. And then hopefully he gets into the end zone. It's kind of a nice touch this week that his mom passed away, and he got the score, so that was kind of a good note at the end of it too.
Are you picking up Otton in any of your leagues?
I would pick.
Or are you streaming him a little bit?
I would stream him over the likes of Tyler Higbee, like I said, who I drop. I mean, the Seahawks love giving up to the tight end, so I'd be streaming him all day long against the Seahawks this week.
Cade Otton and Cordero Patterson, our two surprises of the week. And time to go to our streamers of the week, and I'll start with myself. And my streamer of the week is Dave Njoku, and Keith has mentioned him many times earlier this season. Of course, he suffered a high ankle sprain back in week 7, missed week 8. Team was on a bye week 9, comes back to week 10. They plan on having him active for week 10. And even though he missed that 1 week, including that bye week, he's right now still the tight end 9. And he's still averaging 11.3 points a game when he's healthy and on the field. Not only is he a top 10 right now, but he's only 62.5% owned in ESPN leagues. So please go get him now.
Yep. I mean, I was a big fan of Njoku this season. Obviously, then he got hurt and stuff like that. But yeah, I think he's a good stream this week. Um, we're not too far away from Deshaun Watson getting into that lineup, so that's only
If he
gonna
does.
if he does. It looks like they're saying by week 13 he's going to be in there. So I think that's only going to help Njoku having
Against Houston.
So yeah, it is against Houston too, which would be interesting. But yeah, I like the call with Njoku.
Yeah, I started liking Njoku, and I mean, if you're desperate for tight ends, I like Njoku over Tanyan.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I've been saying Tanyan a lot, but the way this Packers offense is going now, I mean, you don't want any really shares of any of them until you see that they're going to improve and Rodgers doesn't look like a 45-year-old man and the ball's going everywhere. Which I shouldn't say that because that's bad on Tom Brady, but he's starting to look a bit old too. But I mean, you'd swear Rodgers was older than Brady the way he's playing right now.
Of course, David Njoku, my streamer of the week. And Keith, who is your streamer of the week?
My guy is probably a guy that is going to get into most people's teams now, but it's Justin Fields, and he's a streamer because anybody out there that has Lamar Jackson on a bye this week, Justin Fields should be the guy you get on your waivers and plug and play this week because the way he's looking right now, it's like a very similar to Lamar Jackson. The way he's running, I mean, the last 3 games especially, he has been unreal. He had 178 yards and a score on the ground alone last week. He had 123 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns. I mean, the yards through the air is not much, but he still had 3 touchdowns. He is looking great. I think he's going to be. I just looked at my leagues, my my redraft leagues, and he's actually on the waiver wire for most of my leagues, which I was surprised. So especially with guys missing Lamar this week, I've got Lamar missing a couple of my leagues. I'm going after Justin Fields. I mean, he's gonna give you similar type of production, probably give you more fancy points than Lamar has over the last few weeks. And they play Detroit, who are one of the worst defenses. So, if Justin Fields keeps this up, he's finally going to show what we all thought at the start of the year. And, a lot of people wanted him on the Patriots. And then everybody, out of last year was kind of like, no, we did the right thing. Now I think you're finally seeing that with this new coaching staff, what Justin Fields can do. He's been allowed, run the ball a lot. He looks like Russell Wilson in his prime. That's what he does. But I think, people are going to say, he's not a streamer anymore as a guy to start. But I do think just for this week with, Lamar out, that reminds me, he reminds me so much of him. So Justin Fields is my guy.
And since we're on the topic of Mr. Justin, we might as well go to our waiver wire quarterbacks as I bring you to that field and talk about Mr. Justin Fields as well. I mean, I've mentioned him the last 3 weeks. This man is the QB7 right now. As Keith has already mentioned, he looks amazing, averaging 18.3 points a game. He's facing Detroit. Don't let the Packers fool you. It's not a good offense. Fields is a better offense than the Packers right now. Only 47.5% owned. And of course, I mentioned Claypool last week and how much of a factor he's going to be. He had those 6 targets. Did he score low? Yeah, it's his first game with a new offense. I expect him to score low. But that's also keep in mind that he may go under the 70% owned mark after this week because he's right around that 72% owned. So be sure to look out for that. But I said it last week that he was a top 12 passer moving forward, and I consistently and will keep saying it until he's over 70% owned. He is a top 12 passer moving forward for the rest of the season. And don't be shocked if they may try to have a playoff run.
I mean, maybe. It might be a bit of a stretch at this
it might be
season now, but I mean, he's definitely a guy that could win your fantasy league and get you a playoff run if you've got him in your team now and you're sitting over 500 or more in your leagues. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think we're both on the same page with Fields here. If he has another great week, he's a guy that you just leave in your team. I mean, for people that do get him off the waivers and they have like a top QB like Jackson, you will have a decision to make who to start. But that's a nice decision to make. So, yeah, I mean, Fields is definitely a guy you go get.
Yeah, and even if in Dynasty right now, of course, his value is probably high right now, but I really think it's worth it. I really think it's worth trading it if you need a quarterback desperately.
What are you thinking? 2 first rounds for him? More?
Superflex, I would give 2 firsts.
Yeah,
I would try to squeeze a first and a second, but most likely they're going to want 2 firsts.
Yeah. 2 firsts max for anybody. I think that's on top of the game. I wouldn't go more than 2, but yeah, it's probably where he is right now.
Yeah, even if you try to give like a mediocre quarterback, like maybe a Jared Goff in a first, they may slightly give you that deal because they're still getting a quarterback back. And Jared Goff hasn't looked that awful, but also hasn't looked the best, you could say. But he's still a top 15 quarterback. So you still get some quarterback back, and who knows, he may not even be there next year, and it could be a win loss for you. You're losing Jared Goff, but you really don't lose him because he
You
wasn't
get
going to be
the
a quarterback.
Yeah, and you get the first round pick. So yeah, it depends which way you look at it.
Yeah. Who is your waiver wire quarterback?
Mine is Daniel Jones. He's coming off the bye. From weeks 1 to 8, he has been QB 16 in points per game. He's averaging over 16 points per game. And he plays the Texans this week. I'm expecting Daniel Jones to come off the bye week all fresh and ready to go and have a big week. I'm expecting at least 20, if not more, points and a Giants win, and they will keep rolling.
Mr. Trips a lot.
Mr. Trips a lot, exactly. He won't trip though. Well, he probably will trip, but he'll trip into the end zone hopefully this week.
Yeah, I mean he's QB 15 right now, and he didn't have the greatest week going to the bye week in Seattle, but I liked his play that he's done this season, and I think there's a chance where he could be a good quarterback moving forward. And I mean, again, you mentioned Houston. He goes to face Detroit, got some division games with Dallas, Washington, Philly, Washington, and then goes to face Minnesota. Might be a tough game, but again, that game could be a high scoring game. We don't know. Indianapolis, terrible defense, and then you go on to face Philadelphia to end the season.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of games in there. I think they're going to be in every single game. And if the Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley can stay healthy, the Daniel Jones we've seen so far, and if Saquon Barkley can stay healthy, they have a great chance to win, any of them games.
How far did they make it in the playoffs?
How far? I'd say they're one and done, to be honest. I'd say they'll get in and get done, depending on how it all shakes out. But I mean, it's still great for Daboll and great for them to actually make the playoffs after the last few years.
Of course, Daniel Jones making a giant leap into this year, and of course they need to make a huge jump and huge splash into the offseason for a wide receiver because they really need help in the receiving core, or try and get rid of your cap in the receiving core.
Yeah, get rid of your cap, and then they gotta see what they're going to do with the QB position. They turned down the 5th-year option, so it's do they go after a new quarterback, or is Daniel Jones on the franchise tag? That's probably the big decision, and that's what he's playing for as well. He's probably playing for his career too, Daniel Jones, and finally he's showing it.
Yeah, I mean it always happens. Like they're on the career contract, their contract year, and they play phenomenal. They get a big contract, then they suck.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how it plays out.
We will see. Justin Fields, Daniel Jones, our 2 waiver wire quarterbacks of the week. Time to go to our waiver wire running backs. And Keith, let's run it back. Who is your guy?
It's a guy I didn't think I'd be talking about, which is interesting. It's Jeff Wilson, who just went to Miami. I mean, I thought this guy was going to be just like the backup for Mostert and, a nice 1-2 punch, but he jumped out right ahead. He had 9 attempts, 51 yards. I mean, 3 targets, caught them all for 21 yards, and he had the 1 touchdown. On the snap percentages, it was 51 him and 45 for Mostert. I mean, I was not expecting this at all. I mean, he did look great, and Mostert looked, he looked good too. But it looks like it's going to be kind of this 1A, 1B, and I think Jeff Wilson's going to be the guy that gets the ball first. And they play the Browns this week, which it's going to be a game where they're going to be all on the ground too. But I think it's a good opportunity for him as well to put another good fantasy day up.
I like how you mentioned the snap percentages.
Yeah.
I love it. I like Jeff Wilson, but I just didn't think he would go into that offense like you mentioned and just be a starter kind of sort of. I mean, 16.2 fantasy points. I mean, he showed his flashes in San Francisco before they traded for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he had 12 points, 11 points, 13 points, 20 points. He looked good. He looked really good for a fantasy player. And he's currently the RB24, so he's really not a bad option if you're really looking for a running back. He's
not at all. And I mean, okay, you're probably going to have the up and down weeks, but this offense is like very high powered. And it looks like Tua's doing great with Hill and Waddle. And there's nothing to say that Mostert and Wilson can't have great games, every single game and be double digits, both of them.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see that. I mean, Tua has that elite offense where that could happen.
Yeah, their problem is they give up as much points as they score. Their defense isn't great now, but that makes it good for the offense, because I mean most of the guys we're talking about here, Hill, Waddle, Tua, Wilson, most will score high in fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. I really like Jeff Wilson. He would have been my top waiver wire ad of the week for running backs. My backup plan is someone who's on a bye week this week. So you could hold and maybe get him next week, but I think the value could be better right now to get him, or you have a better chance to get him, and it's Kenyan Drake. Reason why I say Kenyan Drake is last 2 weeks, 15 plus points. You like to see it. Dobbins is on IR. Gus Edwards is kind of injured, and we've seen him be injured a lot lately in the past couple of years. They say that he may be healthy after the break. I don't know. I don't know if he will be. And the question is, moving forward, does he stay healthy after the bye week? And I mean, Kenyan Drake, he scored a touchdown in the last 2 games, and Baltimore likes to use him in the red zone, and it's a big red zone player that you can get some good touches with.
Yeah, I thought he looked great last night, and to be fair, anytime I've seen him, even in recent years, bar maybe like when he came into the league with Miami, I always think he looks good. Even with the Raiders, he looked good. It's just like he got Josh Jacobs there. But I do think, like you said about Gus Edwards, I would still put Drake out there in front of him. Still think there's always Gus Edwards can always go down hurt. Same with Justice Hill. Drake's been fairly solid, and I still think he looked better even when Edwards and Hill are healthy. Drake looks better. So he's a guy that if you can afford to stash a player, go get him and stash him on your bench, because I do think he can help you, and he could be a sneaky guy that takes you to the playoffs when you're not expecting him.
And are you willing, if Edwards is playing, are you willing to plug Drake in as a flex play?
Yeah, I'd play him. Yeah, I still think he'll get enough touches, because the way it's kind of been odd the way the Ravens have gone. I don't think they want Lamar to run a whole lot anymore. I mean, he'll still do it because that's his nature. But if you watch him now, he's going through his progression. He wants to throw first, and then he was like, okay, then I can't. Then he bails out. There's not a whole lot designed runs. It's more give it off to Drake. So especially last night, there was a lot of handing off to Drake. So yeah, I think he's definitely a guy to go get, because I would play him ahead of
Gus Edwards. Kenyan Drake, Jeff Wilson Jr., of course, our 2 waiver wire running backs. And let's go to our waiver wire wide receivers. And let's go into, do I want to start with Keith? I think I want to start with myself, and I want to hear Keith afterwards. Okay. I'll start with mine, and that's Rondale Moore. And I actually, if you asked me in the beginning of the season if I'd ever mentioned Rondale Moore in the waivers, I don't think I would have said yes, because I wasn't all that into Rondale Moore, to be completely honest. Not to mention Greg, what was it? Greg Dortch. He was lighting the torch up. Yeah, he was lighting that torch up. Rondale Moore, currently the wide receiver 51. He's averaging 11.7 points. So he's a good wide receiver 3, in my opinion. 65.8% owned. So he's on that borderline 70%. Taking on Los Angeles Rams this week. Last week, he had 10 targets, 8 receptions, 69 yards, and he had, of course, 14.9 points. He's had 8+ targets in 4 of the last 5 games. I mentioned before in the season that targets really become a big factor because it shows how much he is involved in the offense. Rondale Moore has looked really good, and he's shown that he can be a good productive player with Kyler Murray there. And, of course, he scored double-digit points in those 4 of the last 5 games. So, of course, I think Rondale Moore is a really good pickup this week.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind Rondale Moore. I like the talent. My problem was when they got like Hollywood Brown and thinking Hopkins would be back, but then obviously, Hollywood Brown went and got hurt. So you're seeing a lot more with Rondale Moore than probably people expected. The offensive line sucks, though. The amount of penalties they gave away, that guy, the snapper they have in there is awful. He's like throwing the ball over Kyler's head and doing all sorts of things. So Kyler has to do a whole lot of scrambling, and the way they're playing, at the moment, Rondale Moore and Hopkins, they're probably going to score high because they're going to be in games. Their defense is not good. So Kyler's going to spread the ball around a lot, and, he's going to do his usual running. So I do like Rondale Moore, but like for me, he's no more than a flex play because he's probably going to be up and down.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, and of course, with Hollywood Brown on the IR, that's my reasoning why I think I'm willing to start Rondale more. I mean, scoring double digits last four of the last 5 games. I mean, that's a productive player, and if you really have that third wide receiver slot or even 2 flex spots, it's a good plug and play there.
Yep, no, I agree with you.
Who is your waiver wire wide receiver? It seems like you like a lot of juniors.
I do like a lot of juniors. This is Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, he's expected to be medically cleared this week. There is going to be plenty of teams lining up for him. Plenty of teams. I think the Cowboys are probably one of the favorites. The Rams, there's been, quotes of the Giants because he wants to go back and play with Saquon, and they're doing well. But the favorites do look like it's going to be the Cowboys. A sneaky one could be the Ravens now with Bateman going down. And
what about the Packers?
I mean, the Packers seem to they went
all out.
Sleep. Yeah, they went all out in the trade deadline. But like, if Odell has to pick, I know money is going to be the big factor for him. But he's going to be picking a team that he thinks can go far in the playoffs, and the Packers are not going anywhere, I don't think, right now. But like, if you are a contender in fantasy and you've got that spot free, I think you should go get Odell and sit him on your bench, because he could be a league winner for you when he gets back. He's going to be back. He's going to be flying. I mean, yeah, it'll probably take him a game or two to get into the offense. But if he's cleared this week, all right, it might be the week after when we find out what team he gets. Or even if he gets cleared this week and he gets a team, it's going to be the following week he plays. But I still think he's a top receiver. He's going to go in there and he's only going to help your team, especially in playoffs.
See, here's the thing, in my opinion, on Odell Beckham. Of course, I mean, the question is he's turning, I think, 30 years old, or he just turned 30 years old, actually, 3 days ago. The question is, wide receivers in fantasy after 30 years old can either be really good or really bad, and they start to age out. And the question is, coming off a torn ACL, can he still be consistent with his production on where he goes? I think because of how big his name is, and if you can stash someone or if you already have him on your lineup, I think once he is healthy, once he signs with the team, trade him away for asset, because I think you're going to get more value than he actually is when he comes to actually playing.
That's interesting. I mean, you can do that. It just depends how it works out for you. I mean, if you're borderline making the playoffs, then yeah, that would work out in your favor if you got some assets. But I just think if you're first or second in your league, you look like you're definitely making playoffs. Odell is only going to help your team.
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll see how it works. Let's see who he goes to first. Maybe then we'll have some wager on it.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to have a wager. I mean, who knows? It depends. If he goes to New York, the Giants, I mean, it could be a good placement for him. Could be.
Crying out for receivers. I'm not sure the Cowboys will be it'll definitely hurt CD's value. So all the CD truthers out there won't be happy. And you still got Michael Gallup there, but you'd be wanting like a Ravens where they're hurting at the position. The Giants, you want some of these type of teams that are they're looking to go to playoffs. That's what he wants to do. I mean, he could come in and help the Rams, but that whole offense doesn't look good at the moment. Another sneaky one might be the Bucs, even though they're not great at the moment. But
they like to get those old people.
Exactly, and he knows he's friendly with Tom. You know how it goes there. So
yeah,
that could work out well for them. You'd have Evans on one side, Odell on the other, and then you play Godwin in the slot or something like that. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Could be interesting to see where Odell lands. Rondale Moore, Odell Beckham Jr., of course, our 2 waiver wire wide receivers. And Keith, let's go into waiver wire tight ends. Let's talk about yours first.
So mine is Greg Dulcich. I mean, he's been pretty good since coming back off the IR. 3 games, 12 points, over 12 points, over 11 points, and then the first came back over 12 points. He's seen 17 targets and 12 receptions in the game since coming back. I mean, they're pretty solid numbers. I get it. This Broncos offense isn't looking that good. Maybe, it's to buy what they needed and Russ will start get going. But I think, if anything, it's actually helped Dulcich because it's been kind of like a safety blanket for Russ. So they play the Titans this week. We mentioned earlier, I think you mentioned briefly in the show, their defense is not great. So I think he can take advantage of this, and he's a great plug and play this week.
Yeah, I wasn't, after the first week of Greg Dulcich, I didn't actually like him at all because he only had 3 targets and he really got his score. He really got his points because of his touchdown.
Long touchdown, yeah.
But the last 2 weeks, he hasn't gotten to the end zone, but he's got those 9 and 5 targets, and he scored double digits. And tight ends who score double digits without scoring touchdowns is a great plus and a great player to have on your team. So I do actually really like Greg.
Yeah, I mean, he was what the top tight end coming out, one of the top tight ends coming out this week, out of Trey McBride himself. So I think he's starting to, it was going to take longer. He went on IR. He was injured through the the opening part of the year, but he's shown what the Broncos thought they had in him, and Russ always likes the tight ends when it comes to the red zone. So he is definitely going to be fantasy relevant going forward.
Yeah, and I do like him a lot. I didn't like him the first week, but I like him this next upcoming weeks. But my last tight end is, for myself anyways, is someone who just broke out, and I'm a big Justin Fields believer in this past 3 weeks, and I think it's going to help him in the long run. Cole Kmet is my guy. I like Cole Kmet a lot. A lot of people were really high on him coming into the season, coming into last season as well. Right now he's at tight end 21. So, of course, he is right on the borderline just next to, Cade Otton, who I mentioned earlier, tight end 22. Yeah. He's averaging, of course, 6.4 points, which he's had a very, very slow start. He's facing Detroit. Detroit does not have the great offense. And he's only 27.12% owned. He had 6 targets, 5 receptions, 41 yards. He did have the 2 touchdowns, which makes me nervous on whether or not the consistency can be there because he scored 22 points. But Kmet scores 25 points this week. And the people ahead of him don't really score much. I mean, he could be in the top 10 tight end conversation. But this offense looks really good, and I really like Cole Kmet. I think this could be a good future asset for the remaining of the season.
Yeah, I really liked him coming into the season, and then the whole Bears offense was awful starting off, and he gave me donuts more times. So, but now they finally figured it out, the coaches. They finally realized what they have in Justin Fields, and you're seeing the best out of Justin Fields, which is bringing the best out of Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, and these guys. So I think he's definitely a great play this week against the Lions. See what happens. I suppose if he throws up a dud against this offense, then yeah, I know you stream another guy next week. But he's shown in the last couple of games what he can do, and he is a good talent. So yeah, he's definitely a good start this week.
Cole Kmet and Greg Dulcich, our 2 waiver wire tight ends. And Keith, before we go, I got to ask you, who wins the division, Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Atlanta Falcons? Both 4 and 5.
Oh, it's going to be the Bucs in the end. That's the big.
Okay.
You going with the Falcons?
No, I'm going with the Bucs too. I just was curious because they're both right now tied 4 and 5 for the top.
Yeah, Tom Brady will figure it out, and they'll win the division. Whether they'll win the Super Bowl, I don't think so. But I mean, they'll win the division. Probably they'll make playoffs and then see what happens. But yeah, I mean, the Falcons have surprised a lot of people.
And he already announced he's coming back for next year.
Yeah, so there you go.
Because
more motivation for him.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have any family to go back
home to
now.
anymore, so he just needs to keep playing football.
Yep, exactly. Once again, if you haven't done so already, be sure to use code SportsTimeHQ on Underdog Fantasy. They'll match your first deposit up to $100, so you can get a free $100. If you they'll match it, so you can't go wrong there. Get a free $100, get to bet more, then you get some winning, and then you can cash out. Get some easy money. Once again, make sure you use code SportsTimeHQ on Underdog Fantasy. Once again, that is going to do it this week for this week's show, episode 26. Crazy, we're almost 30 episodes in. The season's already almost over. Once again, I was joined by my great co-host, Keith. You can follow him all over social media at SwampDonkey_90. Be sure to follow him and his fiance on Instagram at HuddleUp_NFL. Once again, I am Fernando. I am your host of Sports Time HQ. We'll see you all next week at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time.